Hey guys, welcome back to Bustin Experience. I have my father and we have Jason back again. And before we get to the conversation, let me go ahead and give a shout out to Hebrews Coffee Smoother. Right? It's amazing, guys. You guys got to try it. It neutralizes the acid. If you have acid reflux, indigestion, heartburn, upset stomach, any of that stuff, it will knock that stuff right out, and it will taste so smooth, so sweet, so amazing. And they have their own coffee now, so you can buy the additive, you can buy the coffee. Go to www.hebrewscoffeesmoother.com. Just try it, guys. It's amazing. And use the code CIRCLEBACK to be able to get 50% off on the coffee, all right? So that's CIRCLEBACK, 50% off on the coffee. Thanks, guys. Jason, welcome back. And Dad, say hi.
Hi, guys. Good to be back. Good to be back with Jason. Nice to see you again.
Absolutely. It's great to be with you guys.
How is everything? What you been up to, man?
Everything's going great. Just recently we did the Trumparilla parade. That was today, and that was phenomenal. Great turnout. It wasn't looking so good at first with all the clouds. It looked like it might rain, but that didn't stop anybody from showing up. So there was a guy with cannons that was blasting off these cannon shots. It was wild. But we went all the way up to Beer Can Island, which is actually quite a bit of a hike on a boat, and came back and just hung out together.
And you guys were supporting somebody that was running for Congress, right?
Yeah, actually on our boat we had Christine Quinn. She's running for Congress in Tampa, and she's running against Kathy Castor, who's like a little mini Nancy Pelosi, copies everything Nancy Pelosi does, and she just doesn't represent any of the people in Tampa. She doesn't care about Tampa. Oh. So Christine's she's been trying to oust her, but we're going up against, unfortunately, a lot of corruption with our supervisor of elections, Craig Latimer. And like Christine Quinn, this last election, she won on election day, and she won in early voting. But the mail-in ballots, of course, came in, and Kathy Castor ended up getting the victory. But Christine's relentless. She's a true MAGA candidate. I'd encourage anybody to look into her. Christine Quinn, win-quinn.com. Very good candidate.
Man, isn't that just amazing though? Like, and it's very frustrating, the mail-in voting. Like, I think mail-in voting is okay for some reasons, like military or very specific reasons, but especially with this whole voter ID thing that people are up in arms about, it really makes it suspect. Like, it really does. And I mean, how does that make you feel? So with somebody that supports her.
Man, it just makes me feel really bummed out because you don't want to be discouraging or anything like that, but without a Secretary of State that's going to really stay on the supervisor of elections and make sure that they're not doing anything unethical, then it's like, what, you don't want to say it, but it's like, what chance does someone have when they're going up against a corrupt supervisor of elections? It's like there's nothing you can do to stop that. We don't have any poll watchers that can go in and go into the main tabulation center. It's bad in Hillsborough County. Man,
yeah, that is actually very frustrating. Have you guys been following the whole George Floyd thing and stuff like that?
Yeah, we've been following it.
What do you think? What do you think about it?
I mean, I think that everything that we're learning is kind of predictable if you objectively looked at the situation. I think that some things may be surprising for a lot of the left-leaning people watching out there, but it's clear that it was never as simple as the media portrayed it to be. It wasn't just some cop killing an innocent black man that. And the only reason George Floyd died is because there was a knee on his neck. It wasn't that simple at all. So yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
But go ahead. You haven't said anything, so I'll let you take it.
Well, we had kind of covered this before. I can't remember. I know we had some conversations. I may have mentioned to you I have background both in law enforcement as a nurse. And when I watched what they had in terms of the video that was provided there. And I saw chopping on Floyd's neck, and emergency medical services came up and did a carotid artery check while the knee was still on Floyd, and I knew right then this is garbage. There's no way.
Right.
I played that over and over again, and that was all they did. They didn't do anything to try to give any kind of emergency resuscitation or anything like that. I can go through both as law enforcement and as a medical professional and tell you exactly standard operating procedures. And I see it by any of them. So I have a question. I don't even know what I saw.
Right.
So when they start trying to draw a narrative, and I had mentioned that in my estimation what we saw, and I had used the term, this was the Reichstag fire. And historically, that was the fire set by the Nazis before they took power, and they burnt down the Reichstag, which was basically their parliament. When they did, they blamed the communists, the Russians, and they targeted them. And as a result, the Nazis were given power, even though they were the ones that burnt it down. That's what this is.
Right. Yeah.
That's what this is.
Totally.
And I think on the heels of that is January the 6th. That's the same thing.
Absolutely.
Reichstag fire. That wasn't the conservatives doing that. Now, could they have been brought in terms of, whatever got that kind of going? There's a possibility. I think some just kind of wandered in innocently because, you can see videos where the police officers are just moving the gates and just letting them come on in. And then later on you see, you got this huge clash. Well, having been up there, I realized what was going on in terms of, I know what we saw before we left, and it wasn't anything like that. And by the time we got back to the hotel and you see all this other stuff going on, I told Becky, I said, this is another one of those Reichstag fires. This was not what this was supposed to have been, and this was not those who showed up to make a peaceful protest. This was not what they were about. So anyway, that's my opinion about what went on both for George Floyd and what went on January 6th. This is a narrative that is being pushed by the socialists to divide this country. There is a huge narrative going on in the background, even while we do the political thing. There are things that are going on that politics won't have any effect on, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think the biggest thing is just the lies, especially of the media. And as long as people are watching that and continue to believe that they see these narratives that are being spun. Because you could actually go watch the trial go on, the Chauvin trial, and just some of the things that are coming out. It's like you said, probably some leftists are probably either in disbelief or they're very surprised or shocked. Because, come to find out that there was a cam, like one of the officers had a body cam, and you could see, and they asked, this guy was actually for the prosecution. It was the chief of police, and he's like, where do you see his knee? And he's like, it looks like it's on his back. And so apparently this whole 9-minute, on his neck the entire time is completely thrown out the window because he was shifting it between his back and his neck. And then also come to find out he was on 3 times the amount of fentanyl that you can possibly handle. And he had meth in his system and all that stuff. And he was saying, I can't breathe, even as they were trying to just put him in the car. They weren't, strangling him or they weren't, on his neck at all. And he's like, I can't breathe. And they were even trying to be cordial to him in the beginning. He was like, I'm claustrophobic, I can't. They said, we'll roll the window down, just get in the car, and then he started kicking police officers. And apparently that was around the time that actually Chauvin showed up. So all this was happening before Chauvin showed up. And one of them said that he actually had the right to just come up and tase him. Like he was within his rights to just come and tase him, but he actually chose a lesser lethal way to handle with him, and so them trying to convict him of murder, or that he was trying to be devious, he did less than what he could have done, and Floyd was like, put me on the ground. So they eventually, because he's like 6'3" or something like that, and 230-pound dude, they're like, okay, we're just gonna put him on the ground. So they put him on the ground, and that's kind of the rest of it. So I don't think that he's gonna get murder charge. Although it is very, overly politicized. So, you could have a hung jury and it doesn't matter what you show because they're just going to vote the way they want. But, based on just what I see and what I know, you could potentially do manslaughter, in my opinion, even though I don't think that would be the right thing to do. But that would make the most sense. But if it was up to me, I think that he would probably just walk. And then I don't care for. By the way, I don't care for Chauvin or Floyd. I'm not one team or the other. But I want to be able to look at something objectively, take emotion out of it, and say yes, he was guilty, or yes, he's not guilty. And I think that's what we need to do. But people want to make this a very emotional thing, and I don't even know if you saw that some people are saying, why are we even giving him a trial? We saw the video. That's dangerous. That is very dangerous. We have a right to do trial, because I don't think that you would like anybody just coming up and saying, hey, you know what? I think you're guilty. Let's just take him out and hang him or kill him or whatever.
These people that are against due process, they're dangerous people. They're definitely a threat to our democracy and to our system.
100%.
Joe Biden says that none of those rights are absolute.
Yeah, I saw that.
So let me tell you who the first dangerous person is with regard to that.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, that also means paying the government in taxes, right? So we don't have to do that anymore.
Let me answer one other thing about the Floyd. Now I haven't watched since all that transpired, months ago. I don't even know how long it was now. I haven't watched any of it. I haven't watched any of the courtroom proceedings. We had a discussion on a podcast, and it was brought up way back then that already there had been a doctor had done an autopsy and had already mentioned the amount of fentanyl that was in his system and said if he had gone home he would have died. Nobody said anything about that. I think we mentioned it, but that came up from the get-go, but just kind of got buried. So you brought that up, and I was already aware of that, not because I saw anything on the news recently, but because we had already discussed that kind of thing. Now it's coming back up again. And here's one of the fentanyl is it's a painkiller. And one of the side effects, huge side effects, is suppression of your respirations. So if he had that much in his system and he's saying, I can't breathe, there was nothing those officers could have done.
Yeah.
In fact, that may have been the problem that he was experiencing. And if he said, I'm claustrophobic, he couldn't breathe.
Right.
He feels like everything's closing in on him. This would be exactly what would happen if you had a fentanyl overdose.
Exactly.
So what they're trying to do now is they have to push this narrative because this has to be ethnic group against ethnic group,
That's right.
or as Scripture says, kingdom against kingdom. In other words, the whole point here is that they have to push this narrative so that the whites and blacks and police officers and just citizens, so that they're all at odds, because if they can keep us going at each other, then they can control it.
Yep.
But that's what happened.
Yeah.
If he was given Narcan, he would probably still be here right now.
He might have been. He very well could have been.
They didn't know that he had taken
But that's the
fentanyl.
point.
Yeah.
And the fact that once he started complaining, because that was one of the issues that I had early on, an ambulance just showed up, and I kept saying, why? And then later realized that, because this was one of the things they hadn't shown through the media, that he was saying, I can't breathe, before all that other stuff started. And so they called an ambulance.
Right.
So when they came up, they were there actually because he was making a complaint, apparently, just from what I was seeing way back when they first started showing these films. And I realized that it didn't start when he was down on the ground. It had already started when he was in the car or whatever was going on. So I realized there was something else going on. We found out about fentanyl. I'm thinking, okay, well, that makes sense. But it doesn't fit the narrative of those who want to push this so that they can have people angry and violent.
Yep.
And so what they're going to do is they say, well, if this guy gets off, and again, I got no love for any of them. I don't know what transpired. I don't know what the truth is on any of that.
Yeah.
But based on what we just discussed here, that would certainly make sense. And it sounds like what they're trying to do is what was it? Rahm Emanuel said, "Don't ever let a crisis go to waste." Well, that's what you got here.
Yeah, and I mean, and I don't know if you saw too, like, because he got arrested the year before as well. For similar things, and both times apparently he had something in his mouth, and as they were trying to, they were like, spit it out, he swallowed it, and so there was probably more drugs, but it was the same scenario because there's actually two different videos, one in 2019 and then the one that happened in 2020, and it was literally just a spit image. He's just like trying to complain and say, hey, I can't breathe, or take me to a hospital, or whatever, because he doesn't want to go to jail. And so to a degree, I mean, I think the police are like, okay, we've heard all this before. And and it happens all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's like, what's true, what's not true? Like, what are they just trying to wiggle out of, And you can't just give the people what they want every time, because then, I mean, literally people are just going to slip through the cracks all the time. And so...
You have several dynamics. We're looking at what's going on there, and I can guarantee you that whatever happens coming out of that courtroom is not going to make people happy. Guarantee you. This is what it's set up for. And it is going to probably start a cascade of events. They're pushing this in such a way that there's a good chance that you may begin to have some kind of armed conflict between angry citizens that are angry against another group, and you could have some kind of confrontation there. I'm not talking malicious. I'm just talking just people. You think about the people that were in Missouri, I guess St. Louis, that were trying to defend their home with the guns. If you remember that, and their state or the attorney general for that area was going to prosecute him, and I guess they stepped in and stopped it. But that being said, you're going to have that kind of scenario where you're going to have shots fired.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen is that's going to give the Biden administration the power to come in and say, see, we've got to put a stop to this, not realizing, or they realize it, they just don't care, that you've got citizens who are obeying the law trying to protect their property, and they don't care about that. What they want is the narrative of, you see, guns are bad because they're killing people.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what they do, because we know that when this George Floyd incident happened, Trump was president. They were looking to do anything to destabilize this presidency and just make things difficult for him and paralyze him. And so now that we have the trial going on, they have another opportunity to exploit riots and to provoke riots. Mm-hmm. Are they going to take advantage of that now that Biden's in office? You think so? A lot of people think so. I don't know. Because like they won, right? They've got Biden in office. I mean, what
they've already started.
They don't want stability.
They want even more than what they have. You're saying?
Yeah, they don't want stability. See, here's the thing that's going on. We had kind of a discussion the last time we were all together, and I made the case, maybe not real gently, but I am feeling I was a supporter of Trump because of his policies, not necessarily his personality. You know, I was electing an administrator. I wasn't electing a spiritual leader. But that being said, when all the things transpired the way they did, you've got what the Supreme Court did or didn't do. You have what these states that stopped these votes in the middle of the night and all these swings. And when that was all done and when it was all settled and Biden took power, I realized, okay, this is over. Now that's to me, because here's what I recognize. Whatever states are doing, whatever representatives are doing, whatever congressmen, whatever these people who, we need to be elected and da-da-da, so we can go in and prevent what just happened from happening, even though there were laws then that should have prevented it, and they didn't pay attention to those. So we're going to pass some more, and they'll surely pay attention to that. I'm not getting in that game anymore. Nope. I'm not supporting Republicans. I'm not supporting the Democrats. This is where people are looking for a normalcy bias. They don't want to lose what they have, and this is coming down the pipe. This is not going to be stopped. There is this appearance that we're actually doing something. We have these numbers, and I saw the live feed from that flotilla and all this kind of stuff, and it's really impressive, and I hear the speeches and this, that, and the other, and even now they're building the pen and getting ready to close it around us. There are things that are going on, and it's like I had said, a hamster in a wheel. We feel like we're doing something. No, we're not. That not one thing has been stopped. There's wholesale abortion going on now on our dime. We are stopping nothing. They're coming after our guns. We can't stop that. You've got the president, as we just said. He is probably one of the most dangerous to say, your rights aren't absolute.
Right, yeah.
We're in trouble.
Yeah. Right.
And to think that somehow we're going to elect local officials that are going to change this. These people that are up in power right now are making deals for our lives, even as we speak. And this isn't conspiracy theory. I have a list of just crazy stuff that's going on right now. Any one, you'd need to put your finger in the dike to stop it. We don't have enough fingers.
Right. Yeah, that's true enough. So I agree with exactly what you're saying. That's why our only hope is that they're satisfied with what they have, and that they don't do another January 6th operation, another George Floyd operation, because they're going to have an opportunity right now with this trial, when there's a not guilty verdict, they're going to have an opportunity to really instigate violence and riots.
When you have justice not being distributed equally, like you have the January 6th, and, nobody agreed. Like, anybody that's saying doesn't agree that you should go in and just smash buildings and try to uproot society, I get all that, right? But then in comparison to the riots that not only happened now, but also last summer, and they caused billions of dollars worth of damages, killed 41 people, and then you go to the January 6th riots, and they're like, oh, 6 died. Come to find out, they didn't even die during the raid, except for the lady that got shot by the Capitol Police. Mm-hmm. And again, that's the media. They're coming in with guns. There was no guns taken or found. With the exception of the police that were there. And all these people are dying. Come to find out, people are dying for various reasons, like heart attack or whatever. Guy gets beaten with a fire extinguisher. Come to find out, that's not true.
Okay.
He didn't get beaten with a fire.
No,
somebody tossed it onto his helmet.
Yeah.
Right. And he didn't die in the first place.
And he texted, and I think he mentioned to, like, it was his brother or something, because he was like, "Hey, I'm okay." I think he mentioned something about I don't even know.
Being pepper sprayed.
Yeah, peppered spray. That's what it was. I was going to say tear gas, but peppered sprayed. Don't you think that it would have came up that he got beaten with a fire extinguisher?
Oh, of course.
Oh, by the way, side note. fire extinguisher hit me in the head.
That's why his family asked people not to politicize the issue, because they were getting confronted with that question, and none of the leftists respected the wishes of the family.
You know, but if one is an insurrection and the other is peaceful protests, that's a problem, right?
It's whoever's controlling the narrative, and this is why I'm saying that the nation's in real trouble. This is and I use the Reichstag fire because there's so many similarities between what's going on here and what went on in the Weimar Republic in Germany. And the smart people, now I know the next question that's going to come up, there's no real way to answer it. I have some ideas in my own head. But when the people of Germany that were smart and saw what the Nazis were doing, they left. They left, particularly the Jews. The smart ones, they left. Now you say, well, if you're seeing these things, where are we going to go? I don't know at this juncture. We're in a lot of trouble because the people that are literally controlling these things, we're making lots of noise. We're saying lots of things. We're saying the right things. We have whatever media we can control, and we're trying to get the message out there. But when you look at this and the way that the media is controlling the messages, you already had mentioned Castor and the way the election went. And my question is, what's going to keep it from happening again? The bottom line is basically this. They have now set this thing up. They have put it into motion. What they did is they went on ahead and they played their hand and they won. Now they have all the cards. They're going to pack the Supreme Court. How are you going to stop this?
Yeah.
Well, they can't change the Supreme Court without a vote from the Senate, right?
And what's to keep them from getting that?
Well, they don't have all the Democrats on board.
Yeah.
Give them time. Here's the thing about it. They have got so much, right now, they've got so much power and so much leverage. Watch them lean on these people. It's going to be hellacious what's coming down. They're not going to let this go because they know that we know what they are. And that if we were ever to legitimately get significant power so that you have both the House of Representatives and the Senate and the presidency, and you have just the Supreme Court, just the way it is right now, don't mess with it. If we had that, we could probably do something. You're not going to get that. They're never going to let that go. They're going to take away the filibuster. They're going to add 2 more states, and they're going to get 4 more senators. You watch. They're not just going to pack the Supreme Court. They're going to pack the Senate.
Right. I everything you're saying is what a lot of people are saying, to be honest with you. And I think that it is their plans. And can they accomplish it is the
And what stops them?
I mean, honestly, the only thing that can stop them is just people standing up and fighting. I mean, how far it'll get us, I mean, I don't know.
What does that look like?
I mean, it's, speaking truth, and it's, I mean, honestly, actually, I'm not going to even say that on air. But, I mean, yeah, no, it's going to, I mean, I think we're going to try to do everything we can as peacefully as possible. But, yeah, I mean, I think we need to cut out the cancer from our society. And, and I mean, I don't know what that looks like. I think we want to go the peaceful route. Hey, like, you can't be doing this. You can't be trampling on our laws. You can't be trampling on the Constitution. And they're like, we don't care. Well, then you're going to force people to do something that they don't really want to do. You know what I'm saying? And that's become the next 1776.
We outnumber them as far as the patriots, the people that are pro-freedom, outnumber the socialists, the Marxists. But what we've seen with the mask mandates is really discouraging. I don't know how it's been in your area, but in Tampa, like I go to Publix, right now everyone, I'm the only one without a mask on. Everyone has a mask on.
Dude, I'm the same way.
So when everyone in your community submits like that.
And that's the problem. That is the problem.
Can I tell you the downside on that? They're getting your photo and they're getting information on it.
That's true enough. Right?
Yeah, no, and that's the problem. So we might
for you first. Me too. Because I was doing that. Yep. But I talked to Becky and I said, and let me show you something funny. I decided, I'm a Christian. Oh, shoot. Excuse me.
And while he's doing that, I mean, I think you're right. I think we do outnumber them, but they do have the media, they have money, they have power, and then a lot of us are submissive. Like, yes, they might be, because we want to just continue on with our lives. We want to, provide our family. We want to.
That's what I wear if I
that's
wear
awesome.
Just to tweet people. Okay.
Show it on camera. That's funny.
All right, I'll let you look at it first. All right, I guess this is a call out because this is actually. but it's if you can see, it says, what is it?
Marijuanadoctor.com.
Yeah. This is what I put on because if I gotta wear it, then I'm gonna make people uncomfortable because I'm uncomfortable wearing it.
Yeah.
But this is a nonviolent way of just kind of protesting. Although if somebody asks me about it, I tell them why I have it. But anyway, but that being said, I agree with you. I think that this thing with the mask is very indicative of what the sheep are willing to do. Mm-hmm. You know, particularly when you're facing, and we talked about all this once before. We talked about the statistics of how this thing has a very, very high survival rate, yet they're pushing all this. And then they say if you take that vaccine, you still have to social distance and you still need to wear your mask.
Yeah, right.
And I'm just sitting there just scratching my head thinking, okay, what is it you're really pushing here?
Right.
And you see how many people are capitulating on that. Let me go. Did we talk about the DARPA?
Oh, yes.
Here?
Okay.
Did we talk about DARPA?
No.
Okay. DARPA, they just announced, this was on CBS. What was the one they have? CBS News, and they have that special, anyway, I'll think of it. They came out 60 Minutes, and they came out and they had the special on DARPA, who has come out now, and they're about to come out with a vaccine that will cover all the variants that they know of COVID. This just came out. This is what they just said. The DARPA's coming out with this, and it will cover all variants of COVID, which would make it broad spectrum. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just telling you what was reported through CBS News from the military.
Right.
And they say, and in addition, there are two vaccines. There's that one, and then the second one is it has to do with nanotechnology, where it literally goes in and then monitors the blood for all of the COVID variants, including SARS, and I think there was another one, and will make necessary adjustments.
Wow. That's incredible.
This was just that, yeah. What kind of adjustments? What are you putting in me that's now going to make sense? We already talked about the genetic changes that they were talking about with this messenger RNA. Now DARPA is coming out supposedly with this report. Maybe CBS is full of it. Maybe none of this is true. But if it is, that's very, very troublesome.
They're talking about nanotechnology to act as a vaccine? Is that what they're talking about?
Not as part of the vaccine. It would, you have the vaccine, which is basic, but according to what they're saying, sounds like it's broad spectrum. But then you have a secondary which can go in, and I don't know if it's mandatory or whatever, because I mean there's a lot of minutiae in there that I'm just not aware of. But they said that there's nanotechnology that you can be, yet again, it's an injection, and goes in, and what it does is it monitors after you receive the other injection, the vaccine, and it will monitor and see how you're doing, exposure, and this, that, and the other, and according to them, whatever this means, it can make adjustments.
Boy, Alex Jones must be going crazy over that.
Isn't that funny? He's like right on a lot of things.
He is.
He is, and yeah, and it's funny because most places won't allow him to talk on any platform.
Yeah. Can you believe in America that we're having such issues with free speech, and we're just getting attacked on all fronts right now?
Free speech, Second Amendment, due process, it's all of it.
Let me tell you, I'm sorry, I don't mean to,
no, you're fine.
But I want to tell this little story. DARPA. Your name's Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about the Jasons?
Mm-mm.
Let me tell you how devious these people are and what sheep we are. You know where I'm going with this?
I don't know.
Okay.
Keep going.
Right after Sputnik went up, we knew we were in trouble. And they came up with an organization, and it was physicists, scientists, biologists, a real think tank. And they came in and they formed it, and they called it the Jasons. And the reason it was called the Jasons, one of the members' wives came up with and said, well, you need a bold name. And Jason is a Greek hero, Jason and the Argonauts. Mm-hmm. So they came up with Jason. Jason got a contract with DARPA, and they are the think tank. They go in and they come up with these just crazy ideas, just out of the box kind of thinking, including genetic anomalies for, the things they've talked about in China, what they're doing with their soldiers. Supposedly there's been some experimentation with our soldiers, okay? So what it was is it was sort of an enhancement technology along with other things that the Jasons provided with DARPA. All kinds, they came up with climate change things, all kinds of stuff. But the Jasons were the think tank. Now let me show you how they manipulate us. The Jasons and this technology of soldier enhancement, that was an idea that was born from the Jasons. Or it was Jason born. Do you know the Jason Bourne movies?
Yeah, the Bourne Identity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason Bourne.
Wow.
This idea was born from the Jasons, and they put this series of movies right in our face. And unless you knew the history of the Jasons and DARPA, you would never know that they're just, ha ha ha, see? This was an idea that was born of the Jasons. It's Jason Bourne. You're not going to find that anywhere. My wife and I, we were looking at it and just happened to find that out. That we saw that there were Jasons. I said, oh my stars. When we started talking about it, I said, they're just making fun of us.
Wow, that is incredible.
I mean, it's very true, you know, and I mean, they're just, again, it's like you said, when you have, I mean, I want to kind of refer to what you were saying as far as numbers, and I mean, they're dividing us. That's one thing. Second thing is people aren't willing to stand up. You know, if enough people stood up, yeah, we could do something. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that we could, you know, push it back at least enough. I mean, I think they'll always come back because they will. You know, there's too many evil people in the world because, I mean, we can't control China. You know, we can't control, you know, Russia. We can't control, you know, there's just too much evil in this world. So even if we did defeat it here on our soil, it would come back, you know. And, I mean, I think that's inevitably where we're going to. I don't think that's any less reason to not stand up and, you know, speak truth and, you know, do what we can. I think there will be a point where, you know, it's just going to be unlivable, and it's basically every man for himself at that point.
When it becomes unlivable, like, you would think that the plan would be to leave,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you'd think. Some stay, some try to still keep fighting.
Yeah, that's true enough. Germany, they had the resistance, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, they had people that kept trying to stand up, and I mean, kudos to them too. I mean, I think either one would be a fine scenario as long as the ones that stayed, knew that they were basically laying down their lives.
Right.
You know?
The thing about it is, it wasn't the German people that defeated the Nazis. It was another country.
It was another country.
A powerful country. My question is, who is our hope?
Yeah, God, Jesus.
Exactly.
I mean, really.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as a Christian. I realize, because here's the thing about it, and I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
But Yeshua, he said in Scripture, and it is just amazing, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, how these have come down over 2,000 years and how direct they are. Not like Nostradamus. These are direct statements. And when he talks about that there will be wars and rumors of wars, and I look at Russia and the Ukraine, I look at Taiwan and China, I look at Iran and Israel, and you see that they are all gearing up, and that these things could just explode at any time. That there will be kingdom against kingdom, or ethnic group against ethnic group, and I have never seen this country so divided on racial terms as now. And he said, and this is the beginning of birth pains. Mm-hmm. This is the start. Mm-hmm. So if I, as a Christian, believe that I am following my Savior, Yeshua, and he says this is going to get worse, I'm not trying to be a prophet of doom. I am listening to what he says. I am looking at what's going on. I am looking at the things that man has done, and I recognize that at some point, God is going to have to come in and say, this is it. This is enough.
Right.
We're not going to do it. When I look in Scripture and we talk about it, and I don't say give up, but I say the fight needs to be different. It's not the fight we're fighting.
Yep.
But when I look at the Scripture, I recognize there's nowhere in Scripture that it talks about some great, as a Christian, if I don't know your belief, but okay. There is no place in Scripture in the end times that says there's going to be some great nation that's going to come up and be a harbor. There is a lot of statements about Mystery Babylon,
right,
and its fall. So I have to look at this and I have to say, this is a lot of the beliefs. I know a lot of Christians are believing a particular thing that when it hits the fan, they're not going to be here. But unfortunately, I don't think God necessarily sees it the same way, because I looked at, including myself as a Christian, and I'm thinking, I wouldn't be worthy to miss whatever's coming. This is a test that's coming, and we are not going to change it. But we do need to stand and fight for what God had said. Here's the thing about it. I thought this was such an irony. Our church, through a lot of our teaching, basically says, well, right now the 10 Commandments are kind of irrelevant. That's kind of the teaching a lot of times. It's all grace now. You don't have to worry about it. They're irrelevant. Well, we just found out that our rights are too now, according to the leader. And I do believe that that's probably appropriate. I think we're going to see more and more of that.
And lawlessness will increase.
Yeah, and lawlessness has increased.
It has dramatically.
Yeah. And in that same statement, he says that lawlessness. Well, it's funny because Yeshua said that in the last days, he said, and this was all grouped together, that there'll be lawlessness will increase, that many will be offended.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have all kinds of false prophets that are going to come out and they're going to give you all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes through and talks about the wars and rumors of wars, but yet the end is not yet. And I realize all of this is happening right now.
Yeah.
And
it's on a global scale, because at any point in time, because I know the arguments of, like, you look at, like, Hitler, and you look at, like, I'm even sure, like, Alexander the Great, and, like, all those big major wars where people are like, oh yeah, well, they thought that was then too. It's like, well, this is literally different. We are so connected, and we are so integrated as a world that there's nowhere else we can go. There's no new land unless we go to Mars or something like that, which I guess is possible. But, like, this is it. You know what I'm saying? Who we have in the world and who's running the show is probably going to continue running the show, because there's just no outside force, except for God, that can step in and do anything. Yes, we can stand up, we can fight, we can, and we should. I think honestly we should, because we're called to be the salt and the light, and the salt actually combats rottedness, right? So they used to preserve preserve like their meats in salt, and that would slow down the decay, and I think that we are called to do that. So I don't think it's by any means, let's just give up, and call it quits, because we have a job to do. But we know how it ends, and I think that's where he's getting at. It doesn't matter how much, even if we're successful, it's still coming back around. Which, if we are successful, great. You know what I'm saying? Because more people can come to know God, we can do more good in the world, like, whatever. But it's all ultimately going to go down the same road.
As far as the political end of this, and I know that you're really, really involved, and I was too, and I applaud you for that. And I think I said that the last time, because I do applaud you for your effort. The things that we have discussed, and I think you've kind of said it, you've heard other people say it, and you've kind of seen little bits here and there that there may be some truth to some of these things. You think these things can all be overcome by political method?
I think with people being involved in politics, if people cared enough to be involved, I think there's still hope for that. I think that each passing day they're trying to remove all the mechanisms we can use to overcome them.
I agree.
With the political method.
How do you stop it?
How do you stop them from doing what they're doing now is by, I think, getting people to actually care enough to pay attention to what they're doing and oppose them.
Stop it.
Well, I think that it could. If people start paying attention, they get angry enough, and what are they going to do? They're just going to sit by and watch it and do nothing.
Let me submit this. We weren't angry, and we went January the 6th for a peaceful protest.
Mm-hmm.
You know what they're calling us now?
Terrorists?
Yeah. So my question is this. So when you say stand up, we didn't do anything. And so when you talk about, well, we need to get angry and all this is feeding the machine. This will give them the power to keep going forward. See, because we're the crazies. That's
they
what
want us
saying.
to get emotional. They want us to.
But I don't mean like angry and then do something radical. I mean like angry and just make sure that you're telling everyone what's going on, telling everyone, okay, this politician's bad, this person's bad, do not associate with them. Because we can really cripple them if we actually united. You know how Trump constantly talks about how the Democrats always stand together. Mm-hmm. We're not standing together because we're not even paying attention to what, we are, but the vast majority of people that think like us, they're like, oh, I don't pay attention to politics. I don't talk about politics. I watch football. I don't worry about politics. Mm-hmm. And so when you're not even engaged in paying attention, you can't be united to use your strength against these people. So we have all this strength, and it's just going to waste right now.
And I think to a degree that's true, because if a lot of people, our individuality is is part of our freedom, if you will, but it also bites us in the butt, and that's because we don't care enough, like you said, or we're too busy. But because even Jesus said that he was going to build the rock or the church on Peter, and the gates of hell wouldn't be able to stand against it. Well, that's this idea of that we're united as a church, and eventually. What's going to happen is going to happen, but we should be powerful enough to do good things in this world. Like you look at the Church of Acts, like they literally changed the world, and if we became like that, sure, I 100% agree, because I think politics has its place, unfortunately, but I mean, they weren't very political at all. I mean, maybe not political in the sense of, I mean, I'm sure they were involved in stuff like that in the sense of, they were changing the world in that kind of way. But like, I don't think it was like Republicans and Democrats. They were like, we're brothers and sisters in Christ. We're part of the church. Like, that was, if you wanted to get political, that was it for them. You know what I'm saying? But now, kind of like Dad's saying, they're just dividing us. Now you have, Democrats, Republicans, whites, blacks, gays, straights, trans, normal, like whatever you want to. And it's just so you're just chopping that pieces. Like, everybody's just going to fit in their own little corner and then war with everybody else.
Right, and they're taking more of our strength away when they do that. A lot of these black people that are attending the BLM, not the organic demonstrations, but the ones that are orchestrated by some, I'd say, nefarious party, those people are with us. I mean, I've been with them. I'm sure you guys have talked to them and hung out with them. They would stand with us if they weren't, getting distracted and actually opposing us. Yeah. They would be with us. And I just think that if you put forth the effort and care enough, these people, and we can somehow overcome all these people who think, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's in power. My life's still going to be the same. It doesn't affect me. What's going on in D.C. does not affect me whatsoever. Mm-hmm. My life's going to be the same tomorrow. It's going to be the same a year from now. So there are these people that are mistaken, and they don't understand how at risk their life and their way of living is. Yeah. If they did, you don't think that would have a huge impact on how effective we are against the corruption and against the Democrats? I think it probably would.
Here's the issue, and because I think that the people that you would claim to stand with us are actually just as much of a problem because they don't. Like you look at Germany. I mean, a lot of people were just following orders, like, right. I'm just trying, like, they probably didn't have evil intent. Like, I don't like what I do, but I don't want to get killed. I'm just trying to provide for my family. Well, you're still part of the problem.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're still, rounding up people and killing. And it might not be what you want to do, right? But when you do that, you're still, part of the system. And unless these people wake up, like, I think if everybody woke up, I don't think we would have a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, if literally every single Republican, Democrat, like crap, like, we're driving this country into the ground, we need to stop doing what we're doing, stop doing all the stupid stuff, abortion, let's actually become a nation of morals again, and let's go into the White House and figuratively, YouTube, drag these people out of office. You know what I'm saying? Then, yeah, of course they would have no chance. But, of course, that's not how it is. They're dividing us. They're trying to point us to be the bad guys, the January 6th. And unless people do wake up, yeah, if people wake up, it's great. But I don't think enough are going to wake up. And I think we're just slowing down the process, which we should, because I think that's part of our job. But, I mean, it's going to just end to the same thing, in my opinion.
And you spoke truth here, and I think we mentioned it earlier. Part of the problem is normalcy bias. As things change, people grasp what is normal, and they hold on, and they try to tend to keep things as normal as possible, and there's sort of a slide area. If you can kind of keep it within that area, you're willing to do exactly what you said. It's going to be the same. It's once it shifts so much that there is no more normal, and if you haven't prepared for that, now you're in trouble.
Right.
And unfortunately, let me ask you a question with regard to the last election. Do you believe Donald Trump won?
Absolutely.
Okay. Donald Trump was the president, and they had control of the Senate. They couldn't stop the fact that it appears that maybe the presidency was taken from him. Now, the Democrats are in control.
Right.
And we're going to fix that how?
Well, I don't know if he did have control of the Senate. I would say McConnell kind of staged a coup. I think that would be an accurate description of what happened. He was betrayed by a huge number of Senate Republicans.
They still there?
And a lot of them are still there. I mean, all of them are still there right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
how does this get better?
Well, the good thing about our electoral process is it's divided up by county, right? So they can't corrupt all the counties.
They only did 5.
They only did, was it 5 counties total?
Yeah, in those states.
And then plus the Secretary of States, and then plus the governors.
But the thing is where they stopped those votes, there were 5 major areas. That just negated the rest of the country. I go back, and these were highly democratically controlled areas. Now we can't talk about that. But the bottom line is this: okay, now we're going to go gung ho. We got control of nothing. They're changing the rules as quickly as they can, and we're going to fix this again. How?
Well, what about the governor? So in each of those states, they had to have the governor and their appointed secretary of state. So if you take out those governors and you put in a patriot governor who elects a legitimate or appoints a legitimate secretary of state, well, now how are they going to do it?
Well, they got 4 years to work on it, or three and a half.
Yeah.
They got 3.5 years. You can make a lot of changes in that amount of time.
You can.
You can also lose some governors during that period of time. I figure, and I am praying. I like being in Florida right now. But I do recognize the way things are going. We do have term limits for our governors here, and there was some shenanigans going on even with DeSantis.
Oh,
but
there were serious shenanigans.
Right, and they were able to stop that. The bottom line is, though, there's term limits. He's not always going to be our governor. So however long, whether he finishes out this term, if he gets another one, but I got to tell you that the socialists. They're biting at the bit at raw meat. They have power, and if you think they're not coming after these governors, look at what they're doing to DeSantis. I mean, they are going.
What are they doing to him right now?
Well, the media's hammering him real hard right now, and of course, you have to recognize
He's got some spine, though.
Yeah, he does. Oh, I admire him. But the federal government now, they control all the purse strings and this, that, and the other, and don't think they're not going to start using that as leverage if he doesn't dance. They are just absolutely infuriated that he won't do the mask thing, because he's showing it's just a bunch of hokey. But
and the numbers support him. And the numbers support him.
Yeah, absolutely. but science and all that doesn't make any difference to them. This is all about power, and this is the concern that I have. I am afraid that there are too many people that are looking at this, not recognizing what just happened, and somehow, and I'm sorry, this is not, but I feel this strongly. Somehow, through a Pollyanna view, thinking this is going to get better when we were in a better situation before this happened than we are now, and we're going to stop it. I don't believe it.
No, yeah, that's a really logical way to look at it. I'm with you on that. But if people were more involved in politics, we would have a replacement coming up for DeSantis. We'd be like, all right, well, we've got someone else in the party that's going to take his place. And yeah, we don't have that.
I think that people are actually more awake now than they were during Trump.
Definitely.
Because I think it is changing their lives to a degree where it's forcing them to be like, okay, what is going on? Like, it's getting so bad, you have mass shutdowns, all that stuff. I mean, honestly, I thank God for Florida because, I mean, we are the oasis of freedom at this point. And unfortunately, there are term limits, which actually I found out that a governor can keep getting back into office as long as he can have 2 terms, and then he has to take a term off, somebody else has to run, but then he can get re-voted. Yeah, if he can do it, then he can come back again, and he can do 2, and then get off.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, and I do think right now that Florida tends to be a safety haven. Let's face it, there are a lot of liberals that are a lot of conservatives moving out of liberal states, or maybe even liberals that are just fed up, with the people they put into office, coming down to places like Florida. And one of the things that we haven't really talked about, and this might surprise you, I'm going to tell you this, because of the changes in the economy and the things that they're doing right now, and I'll be honest with you, if we just stopped everything right now, and let's say we put all conservative policies in place and we just turned everything around right at this instant, nothing went forward, I don't know if we could save it anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Even at that, but this is going to keep going.
Because it's not a Republican Democrat thing. It's there are outside influences. You got people like George Soros, and I mean even families like the Clintons. You have like all these people. They're not gonna. I mean, yeah, they might not be the face of it. You know what I'm saying? But they know people, and they got people that are willing to take some money and some cha-ching to do kind of their thing, and it's just gonna kind of weasel its way back in. I don't disagree with you, Dad, that it's gonna come somehow, even if we did stop it. I think that it would still come surface itself in some other way because you have too many people that just that hate us,
right?
And want to control us and all that stuff, and we're just the big target. So it's going to come either way. But when and how do we stop it now? Do we stop it later? I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think.
Go ahead.
I wanted to comment on what you said about the federal government pulling the purse strings on us and not giving us funding. It's a sad situation that we've become so reliant on federal funding. That's not how it's supposed to be.
No,
I mean, they should be able to say, we're not going to give you any money. Be like, yeah, so what? Go ahead then. And then we can honestly retaliate in our own ways. But for them to have that much leverage over us and all the other states is totally unacceptable. That's not the way the system is supposed to go.
Yeah, I agree. Problem is, the people in power like it that way.
Of course.
They want you dependent.
Yeah,
they want you dependent.
Yeah. I wanted to, how they're talking about, and this is a theory. I kind of brought it up to Brandon, and maybe it might be out there a little bit. But with some of the things that we've been kind of talking about, some of this genetic stuff, talking about the vaccines and stuff, and I don't know exactly what the purpose is for all of the things that are going on with regards to the genetics. But let me ask you a couple questions. I'm going to talk about reparations. Okay, you just talk about genetics. Let's talk about reparations because you're talking about excuse me, African Americans, and they're talking about reparations for slavery and this and the other. What would be the basis in your mind? What would be the basis of reparations?
I don't think there is a basis. Are they saying it's because their ancestors were slaves?
Because they were slaves, we owe them.
Right. It would be if you're African American descent. Basically, it would have to be on that. Therefore, there would be a genetic component. What percentage?
Right.
Okay. Because now you have intermixing.
Of 0.1%.
So what percentage would qualify for reparations?
Right.
Okay. So you're going to get a little bit of money as reparations. How do you qualify for reparations?
Some genetic test, is that what we're getting at?
You give them your genetic information.
Okay.
You give them genetic material.
Okay.
Why? I don't think it has anything to do with reparation. I'm telling you, I think there's something more going on here. Have you ever seen, maybe I shouldn't go down that. That gets really...
I think that reparations is just ridiculous in general because everybody has been slaves at one point. Like I'm mostly Irish, you know what I'm saying? And the reason that, and I don't know if you know this, but like our ancestors actually came here because they were being enslaved and oppressed.
Right. No, that's right.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, what? So who owes me then? You know what I'm saying? And then I'm also, I'm Scottish. We know what happened to them, right, with the English. I'm actually 0.1% African American. Just found that out not too long ago, which is kind of crazy.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it obviously, but it's like, and then you have the Indian tribes, so we owe them because we took their lands. Well, which one? They were taking their lands before we got here, and not only that, we came in. Yes, we took some land, but we also bought a lot of land too.
Right.
And people tend to forget that.
Oh.
So it's like, okay, so which tribes, which land? Right, and how is this going to work? And it's just moral posturing, and it's just basically pointing people out to be an enemy when there actually is none.
And the reason why it's so baseless is because there's so many people that came here with nothing. So I mean, if you were a slave and then you were free, you're essentially starting off with nothing, which is a terrible situation to be in. But how many, even the people that have come over illegally, like say 5 decades ago, or the people that have come over legally in the 1940s, Ellis Island, they come over here with nothing, and they work and they make a life for themselves. There's plenty of opportunity here. So what is the basis for reparations? There's no legitimate basis for it.
No, it's a specious argument, but it's one they use to tickle itching ears.
Right.
Free money? Just because of my skin color or because of my ethnicity or whatever. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people that gravitate to that. Again, conspiracy theorists or whatever, but I think there's things that are a little more nefarious than that. I kind of agree with you. At any point, one ethnic group can look at another one because there's probably been some slavery in there somewhere. I never owned a slave. I don't know any black. I know a lot of black people, but I don't know any of them that were ever slaves.
Exactly.
So it is, as I said, it's sort of a specious argument. But I think that there are other things that are kind of going on here. But that being said, you've got that, and then you have universal income. These are all ways to control people. These are all ways, because you mentioned the mask. You get people to stay at home, you dehumanize them with the mask, you isolate them, then you start paying them to stay home. They don't work. You're basically, well, I don't want to call it what it is, but it's it's a very dangerous situation. I mean, it's almost like you're waiting to be harvested, and I know that's a rough way to say it. But I am saying all these political things and stuff that we're talking about doing to save the nation, even as we increase the number of babies that we kill, even though the Bible says He made them male and female, we've got genders all over the place. I mean, we've lost our minds.
Yeah.
How do we change that politically? We have a huge spiritual problem here, which is why the political part has all gone to hell.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Yeah. So
that's the battlefield for me.
That's a great battlefield, because when you start winning there, I mean, there's plenty of battlefields for us, obviously, but that's a big one. What if you could bring that back? Have you heard of Milo Yiannopoulos?
Yes.
So you know, are you familiar with
what was that now?
Milo
Yiannopoulos.
I'm not sure.
I know. Yeah.
Can you describe him? You're probably better than me.
Describe him?
Like what he's kind of like a flamboyant homosexual.
Yeah, he is, but he's very conservative the way he talks and the way he interacts with people. But yeah, he's a homosexual, and he's funny to watch. Honestly, he's really entertaining. But
he got canceled. He's not allowed on YouTube. He's not allowed on any of the social media platforms. Totally deplatformed. But the thing that's very interesting about him is he's actually no longer gay. He's ex-gay. He's actually opening an institute in Florida to help people.
That's awesome.
Change. Exactly, and he's not talking about anything dramatic or anything scary or anything sinister. He found God, he found Christ. And
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
So there's that still happening out there, and we're not totally losing on that front, even though we're getting killed right now, like as far as abortions go, and as far as all these various genders. And I remember a video of Putin who's like, you've got transgenders, you've got transformers. And I mean, if Russia can beat it, like, we can beat it. And Russia's done a good job. They're not better than us, and we can beat it too.
Yeah. And just to kind of play off what you were saying about the whole COVID thing with isolating people, this is kind of a side story. I know an MMA fighter. She fights in Bellator, and she's been off for a whole year, or like year and a half, during this whole COVID thing. And she had a bunch of fights or whatever, and I've always supported her. And then she just had one, and I was talking to her the other day. She's like the COVID restrictions are ridiculous. She's like, I had to be in my room like almost the entire time, like by myself, 24 hours, just her, and then her fiance could come in afterwards, and then she couldn't go anywhere, right? Masked up everywhere. And she's just like, it just does something to you. Like, it just, it messes with you. She's like, I was so anxious. She's like, I would just pace the room and all that stuff. And then when she came out to fight, she ended up losing. And if you know her, she's ferocious. Like, she's awesome. And she tried to be, but she's just like, I just wasn't there.
What city was she in?
She was in Connecticut.
In Connecticut.
Yeah, so
state.
I don't know the city.
Doing that. I can't believe that they're doing that to their fighters. That's
terrible. And I mean, and then she's like, nobody's there. Like, it's just them in their corners, and then the people that are helping facilitate. There's no audience, and she's like, I feed off the crowd, and I mean, it's crazy. So like, it messes with you mentally, and it puts you in depression. That's why you got these skyrocketing suicides and abusive, anger to kids and wives and even husbands. And it's just all these other things are, skyrocketing, and it's like, oh, but we solved COVID. It's like, yeah, well, what cost? Because honestly, I think it's a lot worse than just, if we just didn't shut down, I think we would have avoided something a lot worse if we just went on as normal, as opposed to what we have now, if COVID entered the picture.
Of course.
So that's my opinion. But
yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, it's insane. It messes with you. So we're going to start wrapping it up here in the next few minutes. Any last minute thoughts or things that you want to?
I guess I just want to, since we ended on the transgender issue, it's very dangerous to be against anti-transgender, and so I'm not even going to say that I'm that. But the promotion has to stop. The promotion of transgenderism, especially to minors, that
hormone
should not
blockers.
Be legal. Exactly, yes. It should not be legal. It should be criminal.
If
to
you
do that to minors.
If you want to do it to yourself, that's one thing. Whatever. This is the land of the free. Go do it to yourself. Whatever. Right. But when you start advocating that for children, that's a problem. Like, that's messed up. 10 years ago, that would have been a clinical issue for you. You know what I'm saying? And now it's starting to become widely accepted. And that kind of just shows you, though, the route that we're going through as a nation. It's, good is evil, evil is good,
right.
Which is another thing that the Bible says, that it's going to be the last days, right? It's going to be flipped on its head. And it seems like it is. And then, of course, the ones that try to stand up and do what's right were the terrorists.
Absolutely.
So, Dad, thoughts?
Well, with all of that was said, I have great, great hope in Yeshua HaMashiach, who many of you would know as Jesus the Messiah. And I believe we have some very, very serious problems. I don't say what I just said lightly. I don't take it lightly. I think it is the linchpin to everything that is falling apart. If we are not following the commands of God, our nation cannot be blessed. And I'll end it with this. We've heard 2 Chronicles 7:14, where they talk about, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, and I will hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. But it goes on to say, however, and nobody quotes this, however, if you go and you follow other gods, if you turn away from my commands and my decrees, then I will remove you from the land in which I placed you, and I will remove my name from the sanctuary which bears it. That's where I think we are. I think we are in gross disobedience. And without repentance and obedience, this is not going to turn around. And Yeshua says, when you see these things, this is the beginning of sorrows, that it will be worse. But he said this too, I've warned you in advance, and because of that, you can have confidence in me, so encourage one another with these words. So all this doom and gloom, he says, when you see it, I've already told you in advance, so tell each other that I did tell you, and be encouraged.
Right.
That's where our hope is.
And Jason, anything you want to promote? Where they can find you?
Just Christine Quinn, win-quinn.com, and the New Tampa Republican Club for anybody that's in Florida. We're meeting on April 20th. We're having Chris Ann Hall. She's a constitutional attorney, and her husband's going to give a speech on socialism. He's a linguist, a historian, a great teacher. So we're going to talk about socialism, defeating socialism, how it infiltrates our society, and then Chris Ann's going to answer questions about what we can do to move forward and hopefully get out of this situation.
That's awesome. And I want to shout out one more time, Hebrews Coffee Smoother. Thank you for promoting this video and sponsoring us. www.hebrewscoffeesmoother.com. Try it. And all right, well, thank you, Jason, for coming back on, and I'm sure we'll do it again. And Dad, you're
Enjoyed it.
always here.
Thanks.
So, all right, love you guys. Be safe. Do what's right. Trust in the Lord. We love you. Bye.